Welcome to the Total Soccer Show and our latest batch of listener questions. On this episode, we're finding new host cities for USMNT games. We're unretiring legendary retired players. We're recounting our most memorable soccer experiences and much, 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 much more. My name's Ryan Bailey, joining me today to answer your questions and much, 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 much more. Hello, Taylor Rockwell.
Hello, Ryan Bailey. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to answer these questions. I was somewhat excited to try to find all the cities in which the USMNT/USWNT has not played. And it's a confusing and lengthy, but also not lengthy list.
GPT help you out there, Taylor?
A little bit.
Did it,
But
though?
I still don't trust it because it will say things like, they have never played in this city except for in 2013 and 2011 and 2008. And it's like, well, okay. We have different definitions of never then.
Yeah. It told me that they'd never played in Seattle, and then I thought to myself, I seem to remember the US playing in Seattle at Copa America, and they did. So thanks for that, robots.
Yeah.
Oh, Graham, they weren't scraping your feed, Graham Ruthven, when they came up with those answers. How are you, Graham?
And I'll never let them, Ryan Bailey. I've put up walls. Unfortunately, internet comes right past the walls into my house, but
Yeah, no escaping, I'm afraid, Graham. Not even in the darkest depths of Glasgow, Scotland. Joe Lowry's also here. You may have seen him adjusting his baseball cap as I did my introduction. If you're watching on the YouTubes, like and smash subscribe, link in show notes. Hello, Joe.
Hey, I was definitely ready for the show to start. 100% prepared, as always, because I'm a pro.
Very good, very good. Hat looks good. Just saying.
Thanks.
Very good.
the football gods, is that us? Or is that someone else?
Yeah, it's the four of us. Yeah. I got it. It's a TSS hat. Merch coming soon.
Kind of an arrogant hat in that
It's
respect.
a nickname you've given. Yeah.
Joe, have you ever been unprepared for anything?
Wow,
Just that
great question. I'm unprepared for this question, Taylor.
There we go.
Until now,
There we go.
until now, I was batting 100%.
Nailed it.
Now I'm only down to 93% in my preparedness.
Wow.
I meant that
Nice.
sincerely.
The golden
Joe,
stat.
you seem like you were always, on it.
I try. I mean, what's the expression? Fake it till you make it. I actually don't have any notes for this show. I haven't seen any of the questions. I'm just here. You gotta act like you've been here before.
God.
Act like you've answered these questions before. You know.
93% of the time, Joe is here.
Yeah,
Ready to go.
exactly.
There we
That's
First question from Clay W for Joe. What's the meaning of life? Here we go.
Well, it all starts with the football gods, really, and then it all works backwards from there.
See, you can't fluster him. You can't fluster this guy. Impressive stuff, Joe Lowry. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show is the best way to support us, by the way. If you'd like bonus episodes, including bonus listener questions, if you'd like bonus video content, seeing our lovely visages beyond the YouTubes, and if you'd like to access our Discord and hang out with all the cool kids, you can do so at patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. Hey, our bonus listener question this week pertains to COVID times. Want to remember that? That was fun, wasn't it?
Oh,
Let's go back and talk
what a
about
tease.
soccer.
The
during
subscribers
COVID.
are rushing in to recall that glorious
Can't
time
wait
in
to
our lives.
recall those happy times. We're talking more specifically about how soccer was back then, and there would be some interesting conversation therein. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. Let's get to our questions for this episode, however. Kunal on our Discord has been in touch with this one. Where in the United States should the USMNT and or the USWNT play a game that has never hosted a game before? Taylor, I'll start the bidding at Anchorage, Alaska, just for fun.
I'm into it. I think that's the one that you can access somewhat easily. I think Fairbanks is the one that you have to fly into, though I assume either of these national teams and their opponents would be flying in regardless. Yeah, let's go to
Can you
Alaska.
see Russia
Why
from
not?
your house if you live there?
I'm down, sincerely.
To
I don't know if they have a stadium. What was
Good.
that? Okay,
Amazing
fair enough.
stadiums, Taylor.
I have a few options for you. I believe I'm correct in saying that New York City itself has not hosted a game at least since the 80s, because it's always been in New Jersey. So my guess would be that when NYCFC are operating in New York, we will probably get an actual game for the U.S. men and probably the U.S. women in New York City. But that felt like a little bit of a technicality. I was surprised to learn that I think Charlotte has not hosted a men's game, friendly or
hosted the women,
competitive.
yeah.
I think they've hosted the women, exactly, yeah. So I'm going to rule that one out because they have hosted. So there's a few other. I think I have three other ones. I'll just give you
U.S.
two.
U.S. hosted Trinidad and Tobago. The men played Trinidad and Tobago in the Gold Cup in Charlotte, North Carolina.
There we go.
He's right.
All right, done
Yeah.
across the board. Never mind. In your
Strike
face,
Charlotte,
You're
as
out.
always.
Joe, can you fact check Buffalo for me?
Nah, too hard.
Okay. Buffalo, I mean, I think Western New York has largely been unused by U.S. soccer, though I think there is quite a bit of love for the sport. I think it would be fun to have a game there. We can play in the Bills Stadium. Bills fans can just treat it like a Bills pregame, and that should be a rowdy atmosphere. But also, if we have a World Cup qualifier in February, let's go ahead and play that in Buffalo and see how that goes for our opposition. And by contrast, I think Louisville would be a great place to host either one of the national teams. They obviously have the NWSL franchise. They have a very successful USL franchise, so plenty of support for the men's and the women's game, plenty of good programs, both at youth and college level in Louisville and the surrounding environs. And it's just a great soccer city with good history. So I would say Louisville and Buffalo are two of my answers.
Yeah, Louisville would have been on my list. That's Lynn Family Stadium, Taylor, that you're talking about, if not for the entirely horrific camera angle. It is like worse than the Bournemouth one, if that helps anybody. It is so low. It's like someone just popped up a tripod and decided to film it. Really what it's like is that they completely forgot that they needed to care about the broadcast when they were building that thing. And as someone who's more than likely going to be watching this game from home, can't do it, Louisville. Really want to. You should seriously fix that. It's horrible. Can I go through the rest of my list? I'm going to go through the rest of my list. I feel like that's what I should do next. This is not a good answer because it doesn't fit the requirements of the question. But it's been over a decade, by my count, since Providence Park had hosted a U.S. men or women's game.
Yep.
I understand it's the turf. Just get grass. I don't think it's possible there, but wouldn't that be nice? I think that'd be really nice. Providence Park is not that Graham's ever been to Portland. He wouldn't know anything about it. But I think it is maybe the coolest and best venue in American soccer. It's a great venue. It's popped up right in the middle of downtown, and it is built like into the infrastructure around it. It is so cool. I love Providence Park. I've only been once, but would love to go back, and I think it is a very worthy venue and an incredibly worthy soccer city. My other two answers are
It's so strange that they've never hosted a game before, Joe.
Yeah, never. That's why I said it perfectly fits the question and is a very valid answer. Albuquerque, New Mexico is on my list. Incredible soccer vibes. They're building a new stadium, New Mexico United, that would probably be too small, would almost certainly be too small to host a game like this. But a January camp maybe for the men or some sort of outside of FIFA window camp for the women. Never say never. We've seen those hosted in USL stadiums before. Albuquerque shows up for New Mexico United games in a real way. Maybe the best fan base in USL. I would love that. I think that would be extremely fun. Mm-hmm. And my last one is even smaller. This is James J. Fitzpatrick Stadium in Portland, Maine. Sure, only 6,000 seats there, but those Hearts of Pine fans, they turn up for those Portland games. I think those games look like so much fun. I would love to go. It's been a blast to see soccer sort of explode in the Northeast as some of these professional franchises have come into existence. This one is never going to happen, but shout out those fans in Portland.
Very good. Graham?
Ryan, I could see you physically convulsing, trying to prevent yourself from doing the "For I am the mayor of Albuquerque," which feels like canon at this point.
Yeah.
I'm in favour.
Once a week is enough, Graham.
Yeah, well, that's it. I really struggled to find an answer to this question because every time I thought I'd found one of the two national teams had played a Copa America game. Charlotte was one of them. I couldn't recall the US playing in Charlotte, and then I think I must have found that Gold Cup game that Joe found. So
I didn't know, and I went to that game, so that's quite.
I was going to say, I feel like I remember you going to that, Ryan, but what else?
It was Taylor not there, actually. Were the two of you not meet at that game? Is that not what that game would have been?
No, that was Charlotte's first game ever.
Ah, there we go. I knew that you had met at the bank, and Joe and I weren't invited, which
thanks,
just
guys.
rude. So I am going to say
we held hands the whole time.
I'm sure you did. I'm going to say Honolulu. Can I sell you guys on a trip to Honolulu? Never been. Seems cool, and they've got a 50,000 seater stadium there, the Aloha Stadium. Great name.
Is that the Pro Bowl one?
You tell me,
Could be,
Ryan.
right?
I don't even know what that is. The Pro Bowl.
I
don't think I've got one of those in my kitchen. But I think some island air would do. I see it like you know how Ireland went to Saipan before the 2002 World Cup, and that famously
went really well, didn't it?
That worked really well for them.
Yeah.
I think the US should go to Honolulu to play a game before the start of the World Cup next year.
I like it. I was actually going to suggest random Hawaiian island. So you've gone bigger there. I like that. Very good. Very good. Mm-hmm. Puerto Rico, can we have that so that some NFL fans can learn it's a U.S. territory? Yay? Nay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Takers?
Let's do it. I mean, just because Puerto Rico has their own national team, I don't see any issue there at all.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
There's the opponent.
we've got a built-in
That's
opponent
equal.
right there. Yeah, exactly.
Kunal, thank you very much indeed for your question. We go now to Tony Zatino, who's asked us, whatever happens in 2026, what would you like the US national team to make a priority looking at 2030 and beyond? For me,
Playing in
says Tony.
Honolulu. So
Yeah, well, that's a clear one. And Anchorage, Alaska, because we've got all the two freak states covered, as the Simpsons would call them, Graham. For me, I would like the US to stop all home-based tournaments, says Tony. No other nation plays like this. Tournaments like the Gold Cup, like the Nations League and so on, have to be rotated. I know it won't happen because of money, but it takes away from the sport, and we kid ourselves into thinking we're at a higher level than we really are. What do we think, Joe? I mean, obviously, it probably won't happen because of money, right? Taylor, go on.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Is Tony saying he wants them to stop playing in the Gold Cup and the Nations League, or he wants those tournaments to be hosted elsewhere?
The second
in
thing.
CONCACAF?
I think the
the
last
second thing.
Okay.
But I
Cool.
want the first thing. But more on that later.
Ooh,
Hello.
spicy. Yeah, I love this idea from Tony. I also agree with Tony that the likelihood of it happening is extremely low because of the giant sacks of cash that everybody views the U.S. soccer market as being. That said, the Mexico friendly, so the USMNT played Mexico in a friendly in Guadalajara last October, just about a year ago now. That does give me some hope that at least more away games in Mexico might be possible. I do think the sporting side of U.S. soccer would recognize the merit to challenging their program a little bit more by having some more games played away from home. Those will probably be friendly. It's more so than not, but especially heading into 2030 where you don't have the luxury of playing your World Cup on home soil. Yes, it'll be qualifying, but I could see the U.S. going down that route, at least a little bit, even if it's not in the way Tony described. My honest answer, I think I wanted to think a bit bigger than the tournament thing. I think this is very relevant. I think it's a good idea. But my honest answer is I want to look at the bottom of the funnel, right? Because the reality is the U.S. doesn't create, I think I meant top of the funnel, by the way, just to be very clear. The U.S. doesn't create a lot of great players. The U.S. needs more players playing soccer. And I think that is the thing that I think about the most, is I want to improve the game of the youth ranks and have more kids playing the sport in smart ways, right? More touches, small-sided games, small fields, and better coaches as well, because coaching is a huge problem. Lack of understanding about the sport in the U.S. is a huge problem. It's cultural, yes, but there are things in coaching education that can be done to try and make it better, try to produce better grassroots and youth coaches. Now, U.S. soccer, to their credit, is trying to do this, at least to an extent. They have recently developed the Soccer Forward Foundation, which details around it are still somewhat murky in terms of what's been released publicly. But this came out last year with the mission to expand access to the game, which is exactly what I'm talking about. They've got various initiatives. They've got like some digital resources to try to connect coaches, volunteers, right, for a lot of these people, with knowledge of actually how to coach the game better, which is sorely needed, I think, in the U.S. There are case studies in there, and I think there's this idea of trying to create and point people to more places to play the game, whether that's in schools or outside of school. The better participation looks like at the youth level for the U.S., and I know it's still pretty good, but keeping those people around, keeping those kids around, and training them better when they are actually in the soccer system, as it were. That and developing more and better, like, passionate coaches, I think that is going to be huge. And the U.S. women's national team, it's going to help them keep an advantage, and the U.S. men's national team is going to help them improve, because the U.S. still has not produced a truly, truly elite player, and certainly not many of them, even outside of Pulisic in this generation. So I think that is the clear issue for the U.S. is how do you make more people play soccer? How do you make them play it better? And how do you keep them around for longer? Because that's going to eventually trickle down the funnel. See, I did it. I got it. And that's going to help the USMNT as a whole and keep the women's national team dominant. So I think that is, like, in my mind, that's the clear issue for the U.S. right now. I think that is, like, the obvious problem. Solving it, though, is really, really, really hard.
Okay. Graham, you are going to speak in favour of keeping the home tournaments?
Yes and no. So I have said this before, but I would very much like US soccer to lead an effort to permanently play in the Copa America. So that would then mean the death of the Gold Cup in its current form. And I say in its current form because I then think you could maybe transition the Gold Cup into being something similar to what they have in CAF, which is the African Nations Championship, which is a domestic-based tournament. And I think that's maybe what the Gold Cup could in the future be. And actually, I think that might give the Gold Cup a clearer purpose, because it exists in this no man's land right now where you don't really know what it is. And so maybe as like a mainstream tournament, yes, that would kill the Gold Cup somewhat. But I think the Gold Cup as it is today is almost useless for the US in terms of progressing as a soccer nation in a meaningful way. And so I think playing in the Copa America and playing away in the Copa America as well, not just having those tournaments hosted in the US, obviously we've had a couple of those in recent memory. I think the US playing competitive games against the best teams in South America more regularly would really help move the needle. And look, do I think it's going to happen before 2030? Probably not. But it's not completely out of the question. There is some sort of collaboration between CONCACAF and CONMEBOL that already exists. And FIFA has also opened the door to more sort of like collaborative tournaments and having invited teams play in those tournaments. And I mean, Qatar were a part of Euro qualifying in the last World Cup cycle, so anything is possible. So that's kind of where I would like US soccer to look.
Okay. Taylor, do you buy the premise of Tony's question that home tournaments like these are a distinct disadvantage for the US?
Yes. However, I don't think that like the US playing on the road in CONCACAF helps them either, because I think the way CONCACAF teams tend to set up to frustrate the US is to play defensive, certainly, but also they don't cut the grass. They overwater the field. We saw it with Trinidad in 2017. We've seen it time and time again. You play at the Azteca at the height of like rush hour, so that the air condition is terrible and it's really difficult to play. Those games are always really tricky and really challenging, and I don't think they prepare the U.S. to play soccer in a World Cup. They prepare the U.S. to kind of struggle and grind. And if you think that's the issue for the U.S., then maybe there's value there. But it certainly doesn't make them play better. It certainly doesn't elevate the way they play. It teaches them to win by grinding. But then we go back to the age-old question of, does that prepare you for playing Germany in a World Cup or Morocco in a World Cup, who I think are great and Graham thinks are terrible?
Tier 1 nation,
it's
I would
really
say. Tier 1 nation,
yeah,
Morocco.
probably maybe above that. I don't even know.
World Cup semifinal. I mean, come on, guys.
They're at the top of the funnel.
Yeah, exactly. The funnel. They're at one end of the funnel. That much I know.
There's a funnel, they're red. That's what we know. However, at the same time, I think the reason the U.S. continues to play in the Gold Cup, the reason the Gold Cup is still a thing, is because CONCACAF soccer is poor. And so you need those big nations there to continue to generate at least some level of interest and some level of money. So to use this phrase for the second time in this question, so that money trickles down, interest trickles down, and you get more funding from CONCACAF for nations that aren't good, so that they can theoretically improve or theoretically scout and recruit dual nationals, as Suriname and Curacao have been doing, and you can see the result accordingly. But I don't think then like playing a Gold Cup in Costa Rica is the way to really strengthen things. I think Graham outlined it well. I think probably playing in Copa America on the road is the way to do that. I don't know what that means for Gold Cup. And I think the other thing that like isn't really a U.S. soccer thing, but I think that would definitely help soccer in this country, is Major League Soccer making some changes and making some needed changes that Joe has talked about at length on many different episodes of this show. And that could be the calendar, that could be loosening the purse strings, that could be like easing player retention and making it possible that strong teams can stay strong instead of having to rebuild, so that you don't have the Galaxy going from your reigning champion to the worst team, or one of the worst teams. Not the worst team. Yay, DC. But one of the worst teams because they lost one player. Like, I think that is detrimental to soccer in this country, because you do need villains. You do need kind of dominant teams that people can root against. But you also need teams that can kind of maintain a level where then you can kind of augment that with development players and academy players coming through. But you understand right away, like, this player is something because they've come through this academy and are playing for this team that has stayed strong. Whereas there are times that happens in MLS currently, but it also sometimes feels like, oh, well, yeah, they had their, 6 players that they're paying all the money for injured, so they called up these 3 academy kids, and they're doing well so far. Like, it doesn't ever feel, or doesn't always feel to me, like a logical approach to development, and I think a lot of that has to do with the financial restrictions and levers on display with Major League Soccer. My last thing that U.S. Soccer directly could do is just make the tickets cheaper. And I know why they won't do it. I know why that's not going to appeal to them. But I think anything that could be done, be that allocating more tickets to the American Outlaws to spread around or whatever it is, I think anything that could be done to generate more enthusiasm in the stadium is going to help. Because if you're watching the U.S. kind of struggle to, like, playing Ecuador and ending in that 1-1 draw, it's a good result. We were all kind of optimistic about it. But if you were tuning in, because you are a World Cup viewer or you're kind of a casual with the USMNT and you see it's a 1-1 draw and it kind of just feels quiet and there isn't that atmosphere, you're going to kind of tune out, I think, or switch off or have less interest. Whereas if everybody's up for it and that stadium is rocking, soccer, that's one of the best selling points of soccer is the crowd and the atmosphere and the energy that comes through. And I think anything U.S. soccer could do to generate more of that feeling and sentiment and enthusiasm in the fan base would go a long way towards pulling in even more supporters, and that means even more people playing and caring about the game.
Fantastic. Tony Citino, thank you very much indeed for your question there. We take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to swap a retired player for a current player and see how that turns out. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our listener questions. Fat Crab has been in touch with this one. Fat Crab. If you could go back in time and swap a retired player who you never got to see with a modern player of similar quality, which player would you swap and why? How would they do now? How would their legacy change? And how would they play? Love the show, thanks, says Fat Crab. Graham, I'm going to take first punt at this one. George Best. Okay. I would like to see George Best in his pomp, in his 60s, 70s pomp, playing in the modern game. I'd swap him for, I suppose it would be sort of a maverick, I suppose it would be a Messi kind of figure that you'd swap George Best for. But I would love to see how his game holds up in modern times. Would he have the athleticism to keep up? Would the rock and roll lifestyle, in air quotes, be suitable for a modern player? Obviously, he was an incredibly talented player, but would he be able to keep up with modern defenses and even the pace of the game? What do you think?
Yeah, so you have taken this question in the same way that I did, but you've gone one way. So you've gone a retired player. You want to drop them into the modern game to see if they would survive. I have swapped.
They're fully swapping?
I've gone with another player going back in time to see just how much they would dominate. So the two players that I am swapping is I'm taking Scott McTominay right now, who I think of as physically right, the highest physical fitness, and I am swapping him with Kenny Dalglish, probably considered the best Scottish player of all time, but not someone that I would consider physically maybe wasn't quite at Scott McTominay levels, but people would say he was a better player than Scott McTominay. I think widely would say he was a better player than Scott McTominay. So I went to see if you dropped Kenny Dalglish into the modern game, how many goals would he score? Would he just be swallowed up by the modern game? Would physical defenders just absolutely dominate him? Yes. I think that's probably likely. Yeah. But how what would his finishing instincts as a number 9 be worth in the modern game? And then equally, if you drop Scott McTominay, who technically not the best player in the world, but physically is a bit of a machine, if you dropped him into Kenny Dalglish generation, would he be the best player in the world? I kind of feel like he would have more of a chance of being the best player in the world 30 years ago than Kenny Dalglish would now, as weird as that says, or as weird as that sounds.
I like
Graham, Kenny Dalglish's entire involvement in the Anfield Wrap, I believe, is at the end for him to go like this and refuse to be part of it. Does Scott McTominay participate in the Anfield Wrap if he goes back in time, or is he also sort of off to the side, not having it?
Taylor, your mind is a marvelous place. I just want to say that.
Begrudgingly, he participates. I'm thinking of the video where Scotland finally qualified for a major tournament, and it's Kieran Tierney, you probably haven't seen this video, but it's famous in Scottish football. It's Kieran Tierney marching into the dressing room, and the whole team's behind him, and Scott McTominay is just kind of slouching along behind him, which feels like Scott McTominay, but he would participate in spirit, I think, or in body, not in spirit.
That's why Graham likes Scott McTominay so much. I can see it. I didn't realize it extended to his personality quite so much.
I didn't know Scotland. I didn't know they qualified for something. When did that?
No, there it is.
You missed our glorious 0-0 win at Wembley at that tournament.
Yeah. Ryan, for what it's worth, I also went George Best. And I will now add in what Graham has done. I want George Best for Lamine Yamal. Let's get Lamine Yamal back into those 60s footballing environments and see how they go. I'm guessing his girlfriend isn't hanging out on the bench in that time period. Unlike at present, still confused about that one. But George Best broke through when he was 17, so there's a little bit of a parallel there. Known for dribbling, flair, flash on and off the pitch, as Ryan outlined. And I think we often think of this as those players, they didn't have modern fitness standards and modern diets, and the game was so much slower, and there wasn't the tactical innovation, and all of that is true. The reverse is also true, though, that he was playing with like metal studs screwed into his boots and a leather ball that's like waterlogged that probably weighed 10 pounds. George Best with modern footwear and a modern soccer ball, I feel like he's doing some things with that one. So it would be very interesting to see if he has that same level of flash and flair with modern equipment and modern surroundings. And then also, can he hang and kind of keep up with the endurance that would be required playing for a Hansi Flick Barcelona team while he is also simultaneously managing a pub and chain smoking. I don't know how that would go, but I think it would be fascinating.
The pitches and the balls, whenever you see clips of yesteryear, are just always striking. Like, it's a complete cabbage patch, like how they were able to play football. That and the commentary, like the lack of enthusiasm in the commentary. Like Manchester United winning the European Cup, it's like, and George Best has put the ball in the back of the net, and Manchester United are the European champions. Like, it's just very. It's just
so good.
Graham, have you ever heard the Shane Gillis bit about when white people stop doing that voice? I'll have to send it to you. It's amazing. He argues it's the exact moment Jackie Robinson hit his first home run. like that's when that voice went out of fashion.
It's crazy. Graham's really good at that voice because he's watched that moment on FIFA Plus so many times. I would imagine.
Well, and also, that's how I speak in my day-to-day life. I just this is my podcast voice.
You put it on. I see.
Yeah. And would you like a cup of tea? Let me get this started for you. Exactly. Joe, is the most pure swap the Maradona for Messi? Is that the most interesting one we could do?
Wow. That is a great shout.
In terms of two players being similar, like yesteryear and modern day.
Like roughly similar profiles of players and both regarded as like greats at their time. Yeah, that would be a really, really interesting one. I think my general principle with this is that I choose the first half of the Taylor's It Goes Both Ways thing, where you bring the players from the past into today. And even with a lot of the benefits of modern training, unless you're like bringing them in somehow as infants and plopping them into a youth academy and giving them the exact same upbringing, but they also still will automatically retain their clear mental edge that they had over their players at the time. I just think there's zero chance that 99% of these guys from the past, even the legends, look anything like a legend in today's game. But with Maradona, I don't know. I still don't think he would be anything close to what Messi is in like his current context. But I do think that would be a fascinating one. And Maradona could still be a very, very good player today. I think I've made my feelings on this whole topic pretty clear with my whole Virgil van Dijk is the best Dutch player of all time take that gets booed every time. Because you go and watch Johan Cruyff games, man, and it's like the dude was really good relative to the guys that were around him, but there's a lot of high school soccer players on that field that he's chopping his way past, you know?
Wow.
My
high school soccer Joe. Like Champions League winners, okay, whatever. Anyway, it is ridiculous. Can I? Oh, never mind. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna say my things. I want to swap Antonio Rudiger with Franz Beckenbauer.
Nerd.
I love this pick. Antonio Rudiger does not get enough love as like the most chaotic center back, just absolutely clattering dudes, which makes him a great fit to not like get sent off back in the 70s. And Rudiger is class on the ball as well. Like Beckenbauer, I watched a bunch of Beckenbauer tape in thinking about this question. He's a good player relative to the guys around him. No, don't get me wrong. Like can punt a long ball, although his form is like really weird when he does it. Is very elegant on the ball, has the energy to get back defensively. The dude is a stick, at least in the film that I watched. I think Rudiger would automatically become the greatest center back of all time. Like he would be regarded as what Beckenbauer is and 10 times more if he went back. And Beckenbauer, I think, in the right context, could be good today. But I really want to see what Rudiger would have looked like in the era that he was meant to be in. And then I also want to do maybe the most pure of swaps to see how the game is developed, which would be to swap a goalkeeper. So why not do a father and son? And let's do Kasper Schmeichel and Peter Schmeichel. Yeah. I think this is the most lab-esque, like actually interesting experiment where you wouldn't need to worry quite so much about all the other context around how these players developed and what the conditions are. Ultimately, a goalkeeper's job has been the same at its core forever, I think. I mean, basically forever. This would give us some real insight. I mean, would Kasper Schmeichel be really good because players didn't hit the ball as hard or they weren't as smart about where they took shots? Would he be regarded as one of the best goalkeepers ever? Would Peter Schmeichel be like just a Kasper Schmeichel in today's game or would he still be really good? I don't know. I would tend to think that a modern goalkeeper going back in time, they would look better because that's my principle on soccer. Used to be worse and now it's better and it's harder to play now than it used to be. But I'm not 100% sure. And I think this could be an area where like the old-timey players could have real success in the modern game.
Yeah, Joe, I wholly agree with your core thesis there on like players being better now than they ever have been.
Of
I don't know if that I don't know if that does extend to goalkeepers. Are goalkeepers now
I don't know.
because they have been coached to be like better on the ball? Are they poorer shot stoppers than like in past times?
I want to watch like a 1970s goalkeeper be like, pass the ball with my feet? No.
I think, Graham, it's an interesting question. I thought about that same question. I really don't think so. I really think that soccer's better now because we've learned how to do it better, right? And it just so happens that playing out of the back happens to be a decent tactic in some instances. But really, even in the modern game, like shot stopping is still heavily emphasized. And for goalkeeper training, like you go and watch a pro team train, they're working on shot stopping for most of the session in most days. I think Kasper Schmeichel would like blow some minds back in the day. I don't know if he would be so dramatically better than the rest of the players around him, but I think he would be really good and far better regarded for thinking about the legacy aspect than he is now. And maybe we would think of Kasper as like the great and Peter as the pretty good. I don't know.
I like that. Peter the Great. What if we
Casper the
got
Ghost.
Casper to go back in time? Let's say he befriends like an eccentric old man with a bad Irish car he's converted into a time machine, and he has to go back and save Peter Schmeichel and make sure he falls in love with his mum. Could we do something like that?
Should
Would
make a
that be
movie
an
out of
original
that, I
idea?
think.
Don't give him the almanac and see what happens to Manchester United.
We could call it go back into history or something like that.
Yeah.
Something.
Returning
My
to the
only-
past.
Catchy.
Yeah,
My
Return
only
to the
stick-
Past. That's good.
Yeah.
My only sticking point is that I need Eric Stoltz to be involved, and I hope that won't be a problem.
I'm sure he'll be attached at the beginning of this project.
Okay.
For sure.
Taylor,
Thank you.
It'll
what's
work out fine.
your beef with my take other than my hyperbole about Johan Cruyff's opponents?
Just
Or is it just that?
just the dismissal of like world-changing teams, but it's fine.
I know.
It's fine.
I am not.
I
to
know
be
you're
clear,
saying the
I have,
standard was such.
I have a
as it
ton of
was.
respect for Johan
I got
Cruyff, and like you can only beat who's in front of you, right? Like Johan Cruyff is an all-time great, but I just don't believe that if we are talking about like the greatest, most skillful players who have thrived
Yeah.
of all time, like in every sport, like those guys just aren't it, you know? And they didn't have the benefits of the modern context that these players do now, and so
Imagine
maybe
if
they
Pep
would
was
be
here.
in the modern moments. But like it's nothing to do with the legacy. He's a great player.
Yeah.
And a very influential figure, but I mean the difference is clear.
I'm going to bring it full circle, though, because here's why George Best still makes sense.
Ooh.
Are you familiar with the George Best nutmeg story, Joe?
No, go. Oh,
Anybody
vaguely.
else? Anybody else?
Maybe vaguely.
I
Remind
used
me.
to love using it in cooking.
There's that one, but there's also Northern Ireland are playing the Netherlands in a friendly, I think. And a journalist speaking to Best before the game basically asks him, I think the gist of the story is like, your thoughts on Johan Cruyff? He's an excellent player. Yeah, but he's one of the best players in the world. He's better than you, right? And Best is like, better than me? I'm going to meg him the first chance I get. Game starts, 5 minutes in, Best gets the ball in the wing, has the left wing wide open, starts dribbling inside, goes and finds Johan Cruyff, feints one way, feints the other, megs Cruyff. And I love the idea of a player with that level of arrogance and attitude of like, no, the best guy in the world? No, I'm going to go meg him just to show how good I am. I feel like Lamine Yamal would do something similar. I feel like that is something he's done, and we've seen him do. And I think George Best going into Barcelona would carry on that tradition quite well.
So he megged Cruyff, Netherlands regained possession and immediately scored? Is that what it
Probably
was?
something like that. Yes, yeah. It was like he made Cruyff after his team was down 4-0 in the first 5 minutes. Yes, that is correct.
It's the guy on the bottom of the podium biting the medal, isn't it? Very good. And as we all know, it's canon on this program. Johan Cruyff was terrible at soccer, which we've established. Is that right, Joe? Is that what our position?
That's my take word for word.
Excellent.
Didn't change
Very
it. Didn't change a line of it.
Fat Crab, thank you very much. Once again, Fat Crab. Bobby Doc Stater has been in touch with this one. Which big club will Antoine Semenyo be playing at next season? Bournemouth. They might win the league is my answer. Dude is electric and surely must be catching the eye of some other front offices. 25 years old, Premier League proven. Surely someone's got to be making a move for him soon. I suppose, Graham, Bournemouth might not be the club he is employed by next season. He's, at the time of recording, 6 goals and 3 assists in 8 games. That's quite good.
Yeah, he's got Chelsea written all over him, doesn't he? £8 million in January.
Don't do that
feels
to him.
about right.
Don't do that to him.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea are not the disaster club that they previously were. Just
And they have no other strikers, so it would be a great idea.
or wingers. Yeah, I mean, Jamie Gittins on loan to Juventus to clear space with an option to sign permanently. That feels right. And then Antoine Semenyo to Chelsea. Yeah, I think Chelsea feels like the most obvious option just because it's Chelsea. But I think he'd be great for Spurs. They were linked with him in the summer, and I wonder if there's some regret that they didn't push the boat out to get him then, because it feels like he's added maybe 20 million onto his asking price now. But they haven't signed. They don't have a proper left winger even now after Son left in the summer. Randall Kolo Muani, I think, has barely played because of injury, but I don't know what he is as a player. Like, I quite like Kolo Muani, but I don't know if he's a winger. I don't know if he's a second forward. I don't know what he is. But I think Semenyo would be like a more natural fit for like a Thomas Frank team. There's enough overlap between Areola's Bournemouth and Frank Ball to suggest that he would fit in well there. But he just this morning I was reading in the BBC gossip column, he's been linked with Liverpool, and I know he's been linked with Man City in the past. So I think basically every big club in Europe is going to be having a look at him. And honestly, the way he's going, I'd be surprised. Bobby's question says next season. I'd kind of be surprised if Bournemouth kept him beyond the end of the January transfer window, because he is up there as one of the best players in the league at the moment, and those types of players don't tend to stick around at clubs like Bournemouth for long.
And I think only recently signed a contract extension through 2030, and I think it does have a release clause, so you would assume then that Bournemouth have structured that if he does leave in January, they're going to be well compensated for it, so they will be okay with him leaving if they meet that price. And Liverpool is the one that feels increasingly interesting to me, because Mohamed Salah is having the struggles he is having, and maybe if things aren't going well come January, do you Liverpool spend even more money to try to kind of make sure that you are in the title race, or if things slip even worse, like that you're in the top four, maybe that's a route he could go. It's an interesting one, because I think some other clubs at this point have strengthened in that area and have a lot of talent in the like the winger positions. I want to go back to like part of the reason why I think Manchester United had trouble offloading some of that bomb squad. Obviously, the fact that they are called the bomb squad is a large part of that, but it is also that like many big clubs have a lot of wide attackers and have a lot of strength out there, or aren't using wingers in that way anymore. So it does narrow the pool slightly, but I think the talent he has, I think, will be very much like on demand or in demand. And then also, if he doesn't move in January, he's going to the World Cup with Ghana, most likely. And then that's another kind of opportunity for him to remind everybody that he is very, very good on a global stage.
Very good. Joe, any thoughts?
Other than I love Antoine Semenyo, no, not really. I think these guys have covered it well in that big clubs absolutely are and will continue to sniff around him. He's so good. Maybe I'll just do a quick beat on what I think makes him so good. He can shoot with both feet, first of all, which The Athletic did a piece last year where they ran the numbers and said that he had taken 55% of his shots with his left, 45% with his right. That's super rare. Like, very, very impressive and very rare that you're that close together. I guess he just hates headers, by the way. That's the implication I draw from that as well. He's a dynamic dribbler, and being pretty darn two-footed helps there quite a bit. He moves really well off the ball, which is basically a must for Bournemouth and how they play under Areola. He is so dynamic in getting forward in transition, and he works hard defensively. I was lying before, he is good in the air. And basically ends up being this all-around wide player, where if there is a hole in his game, he could create a little bit more with his passing, but that's also really hard to do at Bournemouth. So it is not as if he is a risk-free player. It is hard for big clubs to go down a level in terms of even style, right? Bournemouth are having a lot of success this season, to what you said, Ryan. But stylistically, there will be an adaptation between how Bournemouth play and how any of the other teams that we just talked about him going to will play. So there's always a risk when it comes to transfers, and we talk about that quite a bit. That might be the biggest risk. It's his on-ball ability, his ability to function in a higher possession team. But he is so incredibly good and well-rounded in so many phases of the game. He's going to be somewhere, and Bournemouth are going to be richer in the next 6 to 12 months.
They are indeed. Bobby Dockstater, thank you very much indeed for your question. One more quick break. When we come back, it's a nostalgia-filled question we're all going to enjoy. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our listener questions. K-Sides has been in touch. That's Kenneth Seiden. What is your most memorable soccer moment that you experienced live, either in person or watching? Hey, Joe, why don't you tell us about your most memorable soccer moment that you experienced live, either in person or watching?
The one that I always think of, and this was sort of like foundational to my appreciation of soccer, and I think that's why it sticks with me so much. It's 2014, and I'm in Spain on vacation with family. and we had the Spain-Netherlands World Cup game on in the group stage and just on in the TV in the apartment where we were staying. And I watched Robin van Persie score that flying header against Spain, and I could hear all around me from other apartments across the street everywhere just this groan, like the entire city groaning as that ball hit the back of the net. Like, not cheers, because obviously they're not rooting for the Netherlands. Like, there was real legitimate pain that manifested itself verbally, and that has really stuck with me. You know, I think regular listeners or viewers of the show will know that I'm not like clearly I'm not the emotional sentimentalist that maybe some others are, and that's not really how I think about the game fundamentally. I'm much more interested in how good teams are formed and how to fix bad teams and what happens on the field. But just seeing how much that meant to everyone, of course I knew it would mean a lot, but just feeling that reaction, I think was really powerful for me. And I was already a soccer fan at that point, but I think soccer has just continued to hook me deeper and deeper and deeper in different ways over time. And this was a big hook that definitely got me in. I have some other ones, but that is the one that I thought of first for this question, and will probably always think about first when this kind of topic comes up.
That's a great one, Joe. And Louis van Gaal's Netherlands were a bit mad in that tournament, wasn't it? When he switched the keeper out for the penalty shootout. In
Yep.
2014.
Yeah, that was 2014 as well. Shout out Tim Krul. What a legend.
Yeah.
He's sort of a fat crab, wasn't he? Like, at least a little crab-like, you know?
Maybe that was him asking the question. If you want to hear a groan, I watched that tournament in Rio, including the Germany game. So yeah,
that'll do it.
That was an interesting one. Very good.
Just a groan, huh? Not more than that. That surprises me.
Some consternation is what I would describe.
Fair
it
enough.
as, indeed. Taylor, where are you going to go with this one?
A few places. I'll start in Istanbul. When we were there, when Galatasaray won the title, and their majority of the celebrations happened like a block from our apartment. So to go outside and being, I would say, like a nominal Galatasaray supporter at the time, and be around like the hardcore supporters who were climbing statues and setting off flares and 14 people riding in one car celebrating. Like, to be in a city when they are celebrating a title win is not a thing I had experienced before, and it is a wonderful, very engaging thing, and you get to meet a lot of wonderful people who are all very, very happy. So that is a very happy memory. A stranger one is from when we've been doing the show since 2009, but didn't take it like truly full time where I had no other job until like 2016, 2017. And so along the way, I've done a lot of different things. At the time we started the show, I was doing like environmental consulting, which is basically environmental cleanup. And I was project manager for a job at Fort Belvoir in Northern Virginia doing lead paint remediation. I wasn't doing it. I had to drive there every single day and then be in the townhomes on the military base as other people were doing the abatement and remediation. And then I would go in and do like final testing. All of that to say that I watched the USA play Algeria in some random person's living room on my laptop that I'd brought with me, and with like dudes in Tyvek suits upstairs, looking like they were from 28 Days Later. I was downstairs, like quietly trying not to scream as Landon Donovan scored that goal, and that is just an amazing moment where I just remember being like, I have to talk to someone. I must share this moment, but no one around except for the dudes removing lead paint. So they weren't as excited about that one, but I remember that very vividly. Similarly, I remember the John Brooks header against Ghana in the 2014 World Cup. A view behind the curtain, we are recording this on Wednesday, October 22nd, which is the day that our late co-host Daryl Grove passed away 5 years ago today. And watching that game with him, I think we watched it in his living room. We were maybe a foot away from the TV by the end of the game, and his dog was watching with his wife at the other end of the room, and she was like, "Can you guys see what you're doing to this dog?" Because we were so tense and anxious that we turned around and the dog was just like sitting there, like kind of shaking, like very clearly picking up on the tension and anxiety in the room that was released by that John Brooks header. And we went nuts, and the dog, I believe, started to howl, and maybe they got a noise complaint. But I have a very fond memory always of watching that game with Daryl. So those are three big ones for me.
I love that.
Was the dog Ghanaian?
Yes, Austin the lab was Ghanaian in spirit. Yes,
That would explain a lot. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Taylor.
his name was Austin Asamoah-Gyan. I should add that. So maybe now you're
That
making me
explains
wonder. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Graham, what would you like to spotlight?
So I think I interpreted this question incorrectly. I thought it was asking like moments like in a game that I had seen with my own eyes, and I could only really come up with one, and it's easily the most famous goal I've ever seen, but it is the Rooney famous overhead kick. I was at that game, at that Manchester derby. Nothing even comes close to that. And as soon as it happened, I knew like, oh, that's a classic goal. I'm going to see that for the rest of my life, and indeed it's included in Sky and BBC montages all the time. But in terms of like broader memorable soccer moments, like the two earliest formative experiences for me as a soccer fan were the France 98 World Cup, Scotland opening that tournament against Brazil, and that was the first like introduction to how much it meant to a country, like international soccer and the World Cup. I remember John Collins scoring to equalise, make that 1-1, and then Tom Boyd scored an own goal to give Brazil the 2-1 win, which was like the perfect introduction to being a Scottish football fan, so that worked. And then honestly, the 1999 Champions League final was a really formative experience for me. I remember it was one of those games like where you remember where you were, what you're watching it on, like this tiny little tiny little TV in my mum and dad's bedroom. I watched it on, so that was another one. But in terms of like not necessarily like linked to a game, I think of the last World Cup and being in New York with you guys and doing Bleacher Report stuff and going into the studio there and doing the live events, of course. Eating Popeyes and standing over the hole in your bedroom, so to speak. And then no, literally a hole in your bedroom. And then finally, the Bosnia.
You're not coming
Bosnia
back from
trip.
that one, I don't think, Graham. I think. Oh, man.
We'll leave it for
Florida
the
hole in
channel. The infamous hole we've spoken about before. And then also the infamous trip to Bosnia as well, where there were many moments on that trip where I was like, what is going on here? When I had like political figures coming over to me during the game to ask if I was okay and if I needed any help. But I got out of there and with my dignity intact. Just.
Did you?
Well, sort of.
You got
Maybe
out
that was
there.
the moment it disappeared. Yeah, I got out of there, left my dignity behind.
Very good. All right, I've got an in-person and a watching on TV nomination. My watching nomination is also from that World Cup, but the final in particular, which I think is one of the best games of modern times. My barometer for that is I watched it at my home in Rome, and my wife sat down and was compelled to watch the whole thing. And if you knew how little interest my wife has in the sport of soccer, you'd know that is quite momentous. Even the kids came and watched it for a bit as well, just because it was like perfect narrative sports for a TV game, and it was a World Cup final. I thought it was an absolutely sensational game. I loved watching that game. My in-person one, I'm going to go to the game we all know, we're all thinking of in our hearts, the 2011 Conference Premier Playoff Final,
Yes.
Wimbledon against Luton. Joe's recalling it minute by minute as I speak here now. This is the game, the conference final, which gets you into league football, into the top 4 tiers in England. Wimbledon win this game 4-3 on penalties, winning penalty smashed in by Danny Kedwell in front of the Wimbledon fans. This was at Eastlands, Etihad Stadium, Manchester City. It was 0-0 in regular time, but it was that sort of penalty going in was this brilliant euphoric moment which you only get a handful of, I think, in sports and maybe in your life as well. And that was just a wonderful time I was with my brother, I was with my dad, with an extended family. We all went up to Manchester to watch this game, but it was so momentous because it was our tiny club, which we all own as fans, took 9 years to go from not existing at all, from trials in a park to get a team together, to getting into the Football League, sort of a journey the previous Wimbledon iteration had done before, with only fan owners once again, which is an unreal achievement. And I just love that game. I love that moment. Luton, interestingly, they bounced back from losing that final rather well, because in 2013 they went into League Two, and 10 years later they were in the Premier League, and it's been great for them ever since. I haven't checked, but I think they're doing great.
Yeah, constant upward trajectory for them. Ryan, why was that game played at the Etihad? That doesn't happen now, does it?
No, I don't know why Wembley wasn't used. Maybe Taylor Swift was using it or something. I don't recall, but it's always played at a neutral venue, obviously, and it was one big enough for the game. Good question, Graham.
Who was the pop star at the time? Pitbull or someone? Christina Aguilera?
Could have been Coldplay. They've had a long run. Yeah.
Too long, if you ask me.
All right. Kenneth Side, thank you very much indeed for your questionnaire. That wraps up another Listener Questions episode. If you'd like to send us a question, you can go to totalsoccershow.com/questions, or our favorite way, you can go to patreon.com/totalsoccershow, access our Discord, hang out with us, ask us a question in there, and join the community. Do that if you will. Patreon.com/totalsoccershow. Patreon.com/totalsoccershow. Editing machine's broken, leaving that in. Thank you very much indeed, Taylor Rockwell, for your contributions to this episode.
My pleasure, my friend. Was it Adele? She was the number one artist of 2011, according to the internet.
Oh, don't know. Was she chasing pavements at that time? I suspect so. Yes, it could have been.
There
It
we
could have
go.
been.
All right.
I'll go
Solved.
back and maybe I'll put it in a Discord when this episode publishes. There we go. Joe Lowry, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Frame.
Graham Ruthven, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
And listener, thank you the mostest. Thank you very much for joining us through this week and all of the weeks. We look forward to joining you back on this feed very shortly. But for now, bye!